Hey everyone, Kirsty here, and today's video is me going through the 37 books that I bought whilst on a book buying ban. Yeah, you heard that correctly. I have technically been on a book buying ban since January, but I have allowed myself every now and again. But then I properly decided in, I think it was May, that I was not going to buy any more books until I'd read a decent amount, especially as I knew that I was going into a reading slump. And then various things happened, including being paid, starting a job, going to Yalk, and people being bad influences, or great influences, but influencers. So I have a 30 plus. I bought most of these. Some of them were gifts, and so I will tell about each one. I will not be going through what every single book is about in detail and reading out blurbs and things because there are just too many books. Instead, what I'm going to do, I will show you the book and I'm just going to sort of say one or two sentences that I can remember that the book is about, which is going to be hilarious in and of itself because I don't really remember what books are about. There are a few ebooks and audiobooks, but not very many. I can get through this really quickly. And then there are 3 books that haven't yet arrived. They're due to arrive tonight, but I didn't want to be filming at 8 o'clock in the evening. I wanted to be filming now when it's my usual filming time because lighting is perfect. The sun hasn't started to go down. It's also not directly in my face. And the living room is at its nicest natural light in the day. Starting with my ebooks, I've only got a few. And the first one is the Bromance Book Club. Can't remember the author's name other than it's got Lisa in it, or Liza. From what I understand, I don't know what sport it is actually. I'm not sure if it's hockey or basketball or football. It's something. It's an American sport. And the teammates are helping one of the other teammates get through his divorce by reading historical romance fiction to help him learn how to woo his wife and stop the divorce from happening, or something like that. And then Glow by Raven Kennedy, book 4 in the Plated Prisoner series. Not going to say much about it other than this is a series that deals with trauma, abuse and manipulation, but is one of the most powerful books that I've ever read. So those are my only ebooks, and then my audiobooks. I've got Tyrant's Throne, which is the 4th and final book in the Greatcoats trilogy. And then the second one that I downloaded was Daughter of the Siren Queen, which is the 2nd book in the Daughter of the Pirate King duology. And that's it for the audio. Everything else now is all physical. I'm going to do this in chronological order. I'm going to go with the ones that I've had the longest up to the ones that arrived this morning. And the first book that I've got, which is the oldest book on this pile, is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is The Hunger Games, but with magic and curses and kids that are forced to be evil and murder each other. This is a reread and was a gift from the lovely Ellie over at Literary Coven on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, please do follow her. She is lovely and awesome, and we've actually become friends now. We WhatsApp each other and we chat, and she's helped me get through a few dark days over the last couple of months. So this is a fantastic book and I loved it. It was 5 stars. The next book on the list is an ARC that I was kindly sent from HarperCollins YA that unfortunately this was right in my reading slump, so I did start it, and there are so many of these books. So All of Us Villains, you can see I started it. This one, you can see I started it, and I just didn't get anywhere with it. But this is The Song That Moves the Sun by Anna Bright, who wrote the Beholder. From what I can remember, this has got a bit of time travel in it. It's got 2 friends who are drifting apart, and there might be a romance in there, and I think it deals with, oh yeah, it's got like magic and it's all linked to astrological signs. And I read The Conductors, which deals with astrological magic, and I loved it, and I've now created a D&D character who uses astrology and is a celestial mage. So this is why I was interested in this one. The next book is one that was a group pick, and I even voted for this book for the 30-somethings book club, which is based in Leicester, and I was introduced to by Shara from Thoroughly Enjoyed Books, and this was the June pick, I believe. Yes, this was the June pick, and it was Homegoing by Yassi. I do want to read this book. I'm reading this as part of my reading a book from every country in the world challenge that I've not really talked about on this channel, so I should probably do a video on that. And it does really interest me. It's basically following intergenerational stories and about these two sisters and their descendants, and it's looking at slavery from different viewpoints, from the person that's become the slave to the person who is a slave owner's wife. So it's looking at these two very different perspectives, and it crosses intergenerational stuff as well. Then I went to Birmingham for a day out with my friend when he came and visited me for a couple of days, and that was amazing. And that was also in June, and I picked up a workbook for learning Japanese hiragana and katakana, where I'm learning Japanese, so it's got all the symbols in it, tells you how to use them, and it's got practice pages. Then we have Girls of Fate and Fury by Natasha Nyam, which is the third and final book in Girls of Paper and Fire. Next up is my Yalk pile. I've already gone through this in another video, but I went through everything in that video, not just the books, so this is just the book pile, so I'm very quickly whiz through these. Graphic novel, The Magic Fish, basically Vietnamese boy growing up in America trying to find the right words to say to his parents to tell them that he's gay, so he does it through fairy tales. Butterfly Assassin, so child who was put into an assassination program and has now tried to break free, but can you ever really break free from being a child assassin? Don't think so. Book of samples, so little selection of both books that have already released and books that will be releasing within the next year. From Penguin, so a little sampler. Another sampler from Hotkey Books, so this is one book for every year that they've been around, and they've just picked like one of their best-selling books of the year and given you a sampler. I've read quite a few of these actually, so there's only about 4 on here that I haven't read. Midnight's Twins by Holly Race, another one that I started, didn't finish. Two twins, their mother was killed in an alternative world, and now that they're 15, one of the boy gets summoned to this world, she does not, but then some stuff is going to happen, and there's something to do with like the veil between the two worlds, I think, is starting to have trouble, and it's up to them to rise up and save everything. Stranded by Sarah Daniels, this is a virus that caused everyone to escape onto a cruise ship, and now it's, I can't remember how many years it's been, 40 years later, they're all still living on this cruise ship, and it's a dystopia where things are starting to fall apart, and there's also a rebellion uprising, and you get 2 different points of view going throughout this journey. Daughter of the Moon Goddess, all I know about this is that it is a retelling of a Chinese tale, and that is all I know. I think it's something like she's been hidden away and then it's her discovery threatens to ruin everything, like when people realise who she is. So I'm going into this one very blind. Then we have the book that nearly destroyed me on the way home, and that was Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. Again, not one that I know about, I just know that I've been told by multiple people that I have to read this book. I've read a couple of pages where I just opened it onto a random page, and the artwork in this is gorgeous, and a couple of bits made me snigger. Only a Monster by Vanessa Len, I have read this, I gave it 5 stars, I read it in one day, and it involves time travel, it involves a really unique magic, and it talks about who is, as to quote the Hunchback of Notre Dame, who is the monster and who is the man, and it's like these groups of families that are being called monsters, but in reality, are they the monsters or are the people that are hunting them down the monsters? So it just gives you a unique and interesting look, and has one of the best cliffhangers of any book I've ever read, even though it made me want to throw the book across the room. This Vicious Grace, girl gets betrayed and hires the Social Outcast to become her bodyguard, so I imagine there's probably going to be a romance in there at some point. Pretty much that's all I know. Iron Widow, Jiren J. Zhao. I think this is quite sci-fi. It's like, it makes me think of Gundams, if you've ever watched Gundam or Gundam Wing, which I did a lot as a child, where it's like piloted mecha and mechanical suits, but the co-pilots tend to die, and she volunteers to be one to get revenge for her sister. For the Agency for Scandal, so it's basically a government unit that is made up of all women that uncover secrets and assassins and spies and things like that. The Wolf and the Woodsman, another one about a royal that gets betrayed, and she has to rely on a woodsman in order to survive, because they're the only 2 that survive the attack on their group. And then finally from Yalc, I Kissed Shara Wheeler, which is a YA contemporary romance and is Casey McQuiston, who so far both her books have had 5 out of 5 stars and I've read in almost single sittings. Basically, Shara Wheeler kisses the main character and then disappears, and then it turns out she kissed lots of people and now they're trying to find her. And now we have the books that I've gotten since Yalc, where I was really like, that's it, I've bought all the books from Yalc, I am completely on a book buying ban. And then this happened. First to arrive was Delilah Green Doesn't Care. Delilah comes back to her hometown very reluctantly. She meets someone who, when she was younger, thought was very stuck up and doesn't like her, but then a romance blossoms between the two. Then came what I thought was going to be another arc, and it wasn't. They bought me the book, as you'll see in my last vlog. And that is Daughter of Darkness by Kat and Liz Core, that Hotkey Books kindly sent me a copy of. And it's a Greek mythology retelling where you've got a servant of Hades who works as a soul severer. It's a retelling of the Orpheus and Eurydice. I am not a Greek mythology person. It's only since reading Lore Olympus that I've taken an interest, so please forgive me if I get things wrong. But yeah, it's a retelling of that and involves a soul severer. Oh no, on one of my Facebook groups, these were going for £1 each, and I thought, I can't really resist. First is the first book in the School Doggery Pleasant series that I've already read. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm now on book 5 in the series and I'm loving it. And then I got the Henna Wars, which I just thought looked really cute. And then, right as I was like, okay, I have done buying books, HarperCollins go and send out an email with 40% off. And it worked out that one of these books I basically got for free. First one that I picked up was Cafe Con Lychee. When they sent out the proofs, I actually asked for this one as my top choice, but I was sent The Sun That Moves the Stars by Anna Bright instead. And so I knew when I saw it, I was like, this has to go on. You can see it, I started reading this last night, I started tabbing it. And then I was looking through, and one that stood out was this one, which is God of Neverland, which looks like an adult retelling of Peter Pan, and follows Michael Darling as he is an adult and he joins a group who are there to protect the magic, and he's sent to Neverland when Peter Pan goes missing. And then the final batch of books are 3 that arrived this morning, followed by the 3 that are arriving tonight. First is Die Volume 1, which is a group of teenagers in the 90s. A group of teenagers back in the 1990s got sucked into an RPG game, kind of like Jumanji, but only 5 came back out, and now it's 30-ish years later and they have to go back into the game because things aren't done there yet. Then we have Mao, which is by the same author as Ranma and Inuyasha, which are 2 series that I absolutely loved growing up. And this one does have very, very strong Inuyasha vibes, because you've got a girl in the modern world who gets sucked into a portal and ends up in the early 20th century. But she ends up with this demon hunter, and basically he's got a sword that's cursed by a cat demon and only he can wield it, but when he gets into trouble she picks up the sword and swings. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen? I then got a Forbidden Planet edition where it's signed and sprayed edges of When Women Were Dragons, and I don't know a lot about this. I didn't even know that it was a historical fantasy, but it's like a look at women in a different society. But I do know that it just basically, an event happened and all these women turned into dragons, and no one now talks about it, and you've got the main character, she wants to know why, so she's going to explore it, and it explores a lot around feminism, and apparently it has a really strong commentary about women in society. And the final 3 that I got, Hotkey announced on Twitter yesterday that there's a promotion on Amazon for To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, and I read that book in 2019, gave it 5 stars. I want to reread it, see if I still love it as much as I did, and I want to listen to the audiobook again because the audiobook put it onto a new level. So I went on to add that, thinking £2.50 for a paperback, bargain, and then saw that they had a 3 for £6 sale on. So I now have the Road Trip by Beth O'Leary, because I read The Flat Share, absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars, so I thought I'll give it another go, give another one of hers a go. And I can't remember the name of the final book, but it's about 2 people that live next to each other. She's a young mum, a single mum, who's struggling. He is an army veteran who was injured and now lives with his adopted cat and dog. And she puts some flowers out on her windowsill, and he leaves a note on the window, like a post-it note on the window, asking what the flowers are, and it kickstarts a friendship that I imagine is going to turn into a relationship. That is my haul, and like I said, not bad for someone who's on a book buying ban, right? But I tried, I failed, but now I am. I mean, we'll see in 3 months where I get to, but I am now on an actual book buying ban, unless there's like a really specific book that I'm desperate to get hold of that goes on sale, then I'm allowed to buy it. Otherwise, the only books I'm allowed for the next sort of couple of months are ones that people buy for me. I've got a great selection of books, and now finally, almost a month after accumulating all of these books, they can finally go on the TBR shelf, which means that all the gaps that are currently on there are going to fill, and I'm going to cry because I've worked really hard to create the tiny gap that I have created in the bottom shelf. Let me know in the comments which of these books you also want to get to and have on your TBR, and let me know if any of these were 5-star reads for you, because I'm heavily influenced by what people think. And yeah, I'm going to head off and I'll speak to you guys on the next one. I hope you're good, I hope you're staying safe, and until next time,